Well, this is the last of a series of talks that I'm doing on the idea that each of us is flying solo in our spiritual lives. And if you want to catch up on the other talks, you'll find them on the website or on the podcasts. They're all available. So the idea is about really each of us flying solo in our lives rather than slavishly following the teachings of others. And that our real task in life is to seek that sacred wisdom that is uniquely at the center of our lives and be guided by that in the way that we live. We're all, each of us, born into our own bodies that we inhabit, and we, in experience, we're alone in our existence. We fly solo. No one else lives the life that we're given. No one else has the experience of consciousness that each of us have, and therefore we're uniquely able to make decisions based upon what we know about our lives. This is a recap for those that weren't here. And more than that, because the universe is all of a one, because we are all intimately connected to the universe through our consciousness, that's also part of the greater consciousness, we, in effect, conspire with the universe in the way that we live our lives. The circumstances that come our way in our own individual lives are unique to us, and they enable us to make our own unique contribution to the evolution of that consciousness by the way that we respond to circumstances that come our way. We do that by responding in a loving way. So our role in life is to develop the wisdom so that we can make that unique contribution to the evolution of all consciousness through responding to circumstances in a loving way. The purpose of our lives, and it says it all in all religions really, is therefore to learn how to love. And we do that by acknowledging the connection with the divine and with all consciousness that's within us, and by learning from all that's available to us that's gone before. That idea that consciousness is in fact a library of information. When we're born, we're given access to that library. It enables us to learn languages, to be educated at the latest level of understanding that we can be in connection with. And then throughout our lives, we both draw from that information and we give back to it. Its consciousness is really a wisdom interface. So we have our inner connection with the divine and our outer connection with everything that is and everything that's ever been. And while we're alive, our job is to contribute to that library through developing the wisdom of love. The wisdom to know how to respond to whatever circumstances comes our way with a love that will contribute to the evolution of consciousness. And the way we do that is by digging deep, using prayer to train the mind. And we talked about different prayers, the way the mind is trained by prayer. And then using meditation to grow the heart. That's what we talked about last week. And when we do this, we develop the capacity for wisdom that we need to live a full life. It is the capacity for wisdom that we're focused on developing in our own spiritual practice. The word capacity comes from the Latin word capax, which means that which can contain. Capacity is that which can contain. Our meditation develops our hearts so that our hearts have the capacity to contain our minds. Meditation is developing our hearts so that our hearts have the capacity to contain our minds. And through this, we become vessels that can generate wisdom. Our practice is one of the heart containing the mind and all that the mind throws up. And this enables us to have the ability to act in all cases out of love rather than acting out of the mind's reaction to circumstances. So the heart contains the mind. It holds the mind. It's present to the mind. And it enables the mind to be trained by the heart to actually respond in a loving way. And in developing that capacity, we make room for wisdom to come to us through the heart when we need it. So all the work we do spiritually is about developing that capacity within our hearts. With capacity comes the ability to act in a loving way, guided by our hearts, which have trained the mind just for this purpose. In meditation, we stay with our hearts through the breath or the mantra or whatever our point of focus is, and this grows the heart to be ready to love by containing the mind and being present to it. And last week I quoted Zen Master Dogen, who said that wisdom is revealed when real effort is put into practice. When you put effort into practice, and the effort that it takes to stay in our hearts rather than our minds is the training that our hearts need in order to be able to act in daily life. Because the role of the heart is to help in the process of emotional alchemy. The role of the heart is to help in the process of emotional alchemy. The heart is the engine room that allows us to create love in our lives. It's where we bring the divine in, and that turns the base metal, we're talking about alchemy now, the base metal of pain and unwanted feelings into the gold of love. That's what emotional alchemy is. And that's true of the alchemist's task. If you read all about alchemy, in the Middle Ages, it's all about scientists trying to turn lead into gold, and never worked because it was always an analogy. It was an analogy of transforming our experience. The true nature of the alchemist's task, the secret meaning of life, emotional alchemy is living life as an art. Emotional alchemy is living life as an art, where your materials are your circumstances, your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, and you bring them together in the melting pot of the divine inside, and the result is an outpouring of love. And it's only the wisdom developed in our hearts that enables us to do this. And we have to embark upon this spiritual practice of training the heart in an attitude of trust, because we're not in control. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives. And this isn't about doing weird stuff that's going to make the heavens do what we think it ought to do. I mean, how can that ever be something that would be designed into the world, that little old me would be able to say, right, I'm going to say these magic words and what I say is going to come true? I mean, tosh. We have to know that we're not in control of circumstance, and we never will be. And that's the point of sanity, let's face it. That's the point of sanity, knowing that we won't be in control of circumstances. So we have to do this in a state of trust. We're not in control. We don't know what's going to happen. All we can know is that we're responding with love to that which is happening in our lives. And that if there is order in the universe, if the universe is a friendly place, then our loving contribution will make a difference. In our practice, we're not trying to get somewhere, but we have to have a faith and a trust that by doing the loving thing, something is slowly and inexorably changing, even if we can't perceive it. In fact, we shouldn't even try to perceive it, because that's not our work to do. We just do the practice, and through doing the practice, transformation silently happens in us and around us. That's how the world changes, slowly and inexorably. But imperceptibly to the naked eye. Just as you can't see mountains form or seas divide, so we can't see our own change. We transform the world by having and transforming our own pain and difficult experiences, not by blaming others, not by trying to force that experience onto others. You have my pain, it's your fault. Not by pushing that pain onto others, but by recognizing it and being with what we've been given to take on for the sake of others. Jesus brought love to his pain. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that resulted in his transformation. And so we have to receive the pain that we're given and also transform that in love. And the result will be our small contribution to the reducing of anger and hatred in the world and bringing more love into the world. What we do matters, not just for ourselves, but for all around us, for all consciousness. We respond with impulses that come directly from the source of our being, if we're training ourselves, rather than from our minds. So we end up becoming that loving consciousness that's brought us into being in the first place, and therefore fulfilling the role that each of us has been brought into being to play. We're all being brought into being to play our role. We are each of us at the pinnacle of the development of the people that have brought us here. We're at the pinnacle of our genetic development, our parents, our grandparents, all the situations and circumstances that they went through. And now it's us in the driver's seat, our time, our place, our lives. So what do we do with this unique time? I'm going to, of course, quote that poem again. As Mary Oliver puts it in her poem, The Summer's Day, who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, the one who's flung herself out of the grass, the one who's eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and flies away. I don't know exactly what prayer is. I don't know how to pay but I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down in the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Tell me, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Do we carve out our own careers? Or do we try to find out why we're really here and express that? Because let's face it, your life is not your life. It belongs to that greater being that created you. And if you're willing to give up your own ambitions and instead become a part of life's great longing for itself, then you can take your place in the unfolding of evolution. As it says in Matthew's Gospel, if you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. We have to become those living sacrifices that Paul spoke about. Sacrificio, made holy by giving up to loving. We are all unique parts of that evolution of consciousness, of life's longing for itself that drives us forward to whatever completion is, whether you call it the second coming or something else. That life force within us is expressing itself and drawing us to itself from outside us. I see that completion, that second coming, as the point where the whole world recognizes itself as being part of one interconnected whole, where the divine in each of us recognizes the divine in each other, and we see the world for what it truly is. Heaven being, in fact, this world truly seen. That point of realization is the point where the world becomes at peace with itself and at peace with the process of creation. That's what Teilhard de Chardin calls the omega point. Right now, we are all within time, unfolding ourselves in the unfolding of the divine nature. But that self-same divine nature is outside time, continually drawing us to itself, drawing us to a moment that is outside time, which, when we arrive at it, will disappear time itself and show us the true nature of the eternal. That's what's meant by eternal life. It's us, in this life, responding to something outside time, and therefore gradually, bit by bit, breaking down the idea of time that we're all so bound by. We have a distinct role in this, and that role is to cooperate with the divine nature. A nature that's not uncaring, but one that always manifests the highest possible good. Like water flowing down the stream, down a mountain stream, it always gets to the bottom. No matter what you put in its way, the water will always get to the bottom. That sort of love always nourishes, always protects, always moves forward. It is the latent potential, always expressing the highest possible good within us. A latent love at the center of the universe that's unfolding through the evolution of creation, and will eventually take us all to a perfection that is always striving to realize. That nature is always striving to realize that perfection. Everything is perfect, and we are a part of that perfection. And our role in life is to manifest that, to unfold in our own unique way, to express our own latent potential, always expressing the highest possible good. And what is the highest possible good? Well, it's different for each one of us. It's based on our own unique circumstances and the challenges that have brought us into being to be the way that we are. No one else has our challenges, and we can only transform those challenges into the highest possible good. That's all we can do in life. And that, again, is emotional alchemy. But to find a way to do that, that's what we're here for. We're not here to be a success. We're not here to raise a family or to do better than our parents. But we're here to respond in the most loving way to the circumstances in our lives. And when we do that, when we fulfill our true potential rather than the one that we dream up in our imagination, then we get to take our place in the story of evolution. Our little bit moves everything forward just a bit. And so inevitably, evolution moves forward just a bit. Again, what we do matters. Everything we do matters because it affects everything else. And you can see that in the story of life. You can see it in the way that society and civilization has gradually developed. Because all the money and power and wealth of Western civilization are not better than all the work and wealth that other civilizations have developed. Because wealth is just the ability to appreciate experience. Wealth gives us the ability to appreciate experience. It's not money. True wealth is nothing to do with your estate. True wealth is the ability to appreciate the experience of living. We think money will help us do that. We're living in a global consciousness now, and it all counts. From the humblest village in Africa to the swankiest apartment in Manhattan, the transformation of consciousness happens as people express that highest possible good. And each expression is of equal value, irrespective of material circumstances, because it's not the material circumstances that matter. It's about consciousness. It is not about, the Dalai Lama said, the nature of consciousness or awareness is such that it's not at all material. It has no material shape or form or color whatsoever. I think all this is summed up in the hymn that we're going to sing next, which is Jerusalem. I had it at my wedding. It's one of my favorites. And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountains green? And was the Holy Lamb of God in England's pastures seen? And did the countenance divide shine forth on the clouded hills? And was it here among these dark satanic mills? Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire. I will not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land. This is about the capacity to act. It encapsulates the thought of transformation and all that goes into making it happen. The building of the capacity of the heart, which we've been talking about. When we read that first verse, and did those feet in ancient times walk on England's mountain greens, the temptation is just to say, no, they didn't. Jesus did not go to England, and there's no way you can argue that. But that's not what's being said here. William Blake is really talking about the fundamental unity of consciousness behind all things. He's really saying, are we a part of the divine? And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountain greens? And was the Holy Lamb of God on England's present pasture seen? In our experience of living in England or America, is the divine there? That's what he's saying. Do we have access to that universal consciousness? And can it be part of who we are in the world? It is a statement of the spiritual underpinning all things. And in the second verse, he asks about the human realization of this divine presence. If there is a divine presence, are we aware of it? Did the countenance divide? Was there an understanding that we are not alone? And if so, does this enable us to found the city of Jerusalem? Now, Jerusalem is a symbol of the holy city. It is a vision of a place in justice and peace for all. It is the vision of the second coming. Could that be built here among the human chaos that exists? And of course, we want to say yes, it could. It's an invitation to participate in the evolution of consciousness. And by acknowledging the existence of holiness in the present time. And then the third verse is a call to arms. Arm me from my heart to fight for a fairer society. Arm me with the wisdom and desire, with precious thoughts, with understanding, and with the wherewithal to do it. Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my steer, O clouds unfold. Bring my chariot of fire. That's where the film title comes from, by the way. It's almost, that verse almost has the flavor of a superhero origin story. Thor or Iron Man receiving their powers for the first time. It's calling on the divine within us to give everything we need to do the job. It is the rational and visionary coming together to fulfill the potential of humanity. And then that final verse, which is absolutely my favorite. I will not cease from mental fight. It's almost a vow. I will not cease. This is what makes us living sacrifices. This is the move into becoming sacrificio, made holy. I will not cease from mental fight, nor will my sword sleep in my hand till we have built Jerusalem in England's green and present land. The oath of commitment to fulfill that potential, using all the powers that are available to us, committing ourselves to the capacity to act, not ceasing till it's done, till we have that fairer society, that Jerusalem. And our role is one of being a willing companion, putting all our energies in cooperating with that friendly universe to allow it to order our chaotic society. It is this clarion call to us to prioritize the heart over the mind, and in doing so, arm ourselves with the wisdom to be able to love in a way that takes all that life throws at us and returns it with a love that brings order into a chaotic world. If anyone wants to say anything, just do go to the microphone. I saw recently something that Leo Tolstoy said, which is, if you feel pain, you're alive. If you feel other people's pain, you're a human being. And I think that idea of emotional alchemy is really so important in this whole process of transformation, that willingness to be with the pain that we have in our lives rather than blame somebody else. It's what Richard Rohr talks about a lot, not transmitting our pain. All scapegoating, saying it's all because of them, that they're the problem, is really just trying to put our pain onto another group of people, where whatever they are, whether they be, refugees or different sexuality to ourselves, whatever they are, we're blaming other people for us feeling that pain. And our role is to contain that. It is to do something with it. It comes to us for us to do something with it and transform it. And I always love, just to finish with it, I've used this many times before, but I make no apology for saying it again. Khalil Gibran's poem on pain, which I think is so powerful. A woman spoke saying, "Tell us of pain." And he said, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding." Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. "Even the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you've always accepted the seasons that pass over the fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burns your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears."